Dear Sangha, a little bit surprised to see children here. But that's good. You can participate with your parents. After a day and a half, everybody look fresher, look more relaxing, look more at ease, more at home, and more at peace with yourself. So I think stream entering monastery is a really good getaway. To have a monastery away from city, in such a good environment, such a beautiful. It really helps us to de-stress and to heal. This afternoon in my sharing group, I'm in a young adult group. So one young friend shared that even though it's just 1.5 days, but she already feels healing in her body and in her mind. It's so good to have a retreat, to have a monastic sangha, to have children, to have a whole family here. Some of us just come alone because the other spouse or partners have to work or have to stay home to take care of the children, so that we can be here. And so whatever we learn in this retreat, we definitely want to bring home the ease, the peace, and most importantly the mindfulness, so that we can go home and share with our family members. But the best kind of sharing is our being. Our whole being, will become fresher, will become gentler, kinder, patient. So when we get home, our relatives or our family members see the change in us. And they are very curious. So if it's just a weekend, how come you can have this kind of ease, and freshness? And then we can share. Because many of us, we are so eager to go home and apply it. What is mindfulness in the family? So some people, they are quite reactive and quite allergic to mindfulness because of our eagerness. I'd like to share with you a story in Hong Kong, because I come from Hong Kong. We have a Sangha in Hong Kong. There's a young couple. They married when they are very young. The wife was not only 18 when she got married, and the husband is 10 years older. So of course the first year they very happy. But after 1 year, the difficulties just slowly come. And because the wife is very young, she doesn't have much experience, life experiences, and most importantly, she doesn't know how to speak, and she doesn't know how to listen. So she expresses her frustration and her hurt and her impatience with the husband without choosing the right time. So it's built up the difficulties. And with time, the difficulty grew. So after 17 years, they both want to divorce because they cannot stand each other anymore. And the wife really suffered from the verbal abuse from the husband. She really hurts herself. Her liver is almost malfunction. So her eye is very yellow, and her skin is very yellow at the side of the liver, malfunction. And she was so desperate to divorce because she cannot stand it anymore. The longer she stay in the marriage, the more hurt she got. But very lucky in the year 2006, 7 and 8, they came to Hong Kong and offered a retreat, a 5-day retreat. And that's the first time in her life she learned about mindfulness. And also she learned about the beginning of practice. Tonight we are learning. So she went home with that kind of new hope that the miracle can take place, can happen, that somehow she can reconcile with her husband. She had that very good intention, but doesn't know, still, very new to the practice. So we encourage her to do sitting meditation every day, every morning. The first few months is very difficult. She gave up a few times, but we encourage her continue to do the sitting every morning, about 10-15 minutes. So she tried, and after a year, she recognized her way of speaking. It's not the right way of speaking. And that's how it creates a lot of friction and frustration in the husband. And that's how he's so violent and so abused in his speech. And that's how it hurts her. And when she got hurt, she hurts him back. And it's escalated. So after a year of meditation, she learned not to speak when she's not peaceful, when she's not calm, when she irritated. She should not speak, but come back to her breathing and breathe, and not talk a lot like before. She talked much less, but learn to listen more. So the husband recognized that different, that she changed. But she still, after 17 years, the habit of abuse is so strong. He still abused. But because the meditation can help her to stay with her breathing and not to react and not to retaliate. So the husband was impressed that she's not aggressive like before, after he attacked her. But in general, cut short the story, they reconcile. Because the wife, she's aware that if she cannot help him, then nobody else can help him. She's very lucky. She learned about the practice. And she practiced it at home. So through her change, then her husband changed. It is like she said that I never imagined that one day I can talk a normal conversation with my husband like now. She said, I can never imagine I can do that. But she said, mindfulness really do the miracle in my life. And I really saved my marriage. So now they are like any other normal couples. They can talk, they reconcile totally. And the husband changed a lot also. Because the wife, we encourage her to practice and to help her husband. Because that is the door for him to get to know the Dharma. If he doesn't see any good thing about Buddhism in his wife, and he has no faith in the Dharma. So when we are in a very difficult situation, the practice of beginning anew is really a tool to help us to reconcile, to renew our relationship with the people we live with or with the people we are working with. In the monastery, every month we have one practice, one evening. We will sit all together, the whole community, we will sit together. And we learn to express ourselves. So tonight we will learn about this practice. We have 4 steps. So I will go through these steps, and by the end we will have people who practice this for us to see. They will illustrate this practice so we all can see how we can do it at home. So the first step is flower watering. I think in all of our houses we have flowers, right? We all have flowers, indoor flowers or indoor plants. What do we do if we don't water them? They will wither, will die. Right? So we need to water them. From time to time we need to give some fertilizer so the soil have some nutrients so that they can keep the plants alive or the flowers can bloom. So if you have a pot of plants or flowers, this is a flower. So this is the soil. So for the flower to be fresh, we need to water it. But there's other thing in this pot. When we don't water, they still sprout. You know what it is? That's right. Weeds, a lot of weeds. And they grow very fast. They don't need that much water, but they grow very fast, right? So in order for the flower to be fresh, it needs water, it needs care, right? It's very nice, very beautiful to look at the flower fresh, right? We enjoy it, but it needs our care, right? So the positive speech is like a flower. We need to learn how to speak positively. We have a very good education. We have very good skill in different professions. We can be very successful professional in whatever career we are. But learning how to express ourselves is something we need to learn. Because most of the time, when we need to express our need or our frustration, we cannot name it. We accuse, we blame, we criticize. It's so easy to blame and to accuse. And this kind of speech, negative speech, is like weeds. It grows so fast and so quick. And if we live in a family and we speak very negatively, for a while everybody will speak like that. Right? Parents, children, we all speak like that. And in school, we learn about public speaking. But we don't have a class teach us how to listen and how to speak positively. This retreat is very short. We don't have a presentation of the 5 mindfulness trainings, because if we have, and then we have the 4th training, it's about loving speech and deep listening. When you look at our brother or sister, the monastic, I don't know what impression you have, but you can feel that that ease and that kind of freedom, in their being, because we are practicing flower watering and positive speech. So as I said, every month we have a session, we sit together and we recognize the good seeds, the beautiful qualities in each member of the Sangha, and we water. We recognize and we water. So everybody can recognize. When I water one sister flower, I also water my own flower. We need to reinforce this kind of practice so that the people who receive the flower watering, they have more confidence. I remember when I was a novice, a newly ordained, I don't know how to speak. Actually, before I ordained, my speeches were very harsh. Like I said, I don't know how to express myself. So when I need to say something, especially my frustration, I accuse or I blame. That is my speech. So when I ordain, I don't know how to speak. You know, if I sit in a sharing time, I sit for about an hour, instead of saying that I would like to ask for permission to go out, because my capacity to listen is up. I cannot listen. I ask for an excuse so I can go out. But I do not know how to say it. I say, I listen enough. That's it. And I walk out. I don't know how to say it. But the elder sister, because they practice longer, so they learn and they water my flowers. To my surprise, I never know that I have these qualities. I was so blind. I don't recognize any good seeds in me or any bad seeds in me. I'm kind of like blind. So when they water my flowers, I say, oh, I have these seeds. You know, like helping other people without being asked, something like that. I never thought about this is a good seed. I just thought it is something normal. You know? But they keep watering my flowers. So I feel more confident. And especially our teacher. He recognizes what is the best in each one of us and he waters. So that's how you look at us. We grow with confidence. He recognizes, we have our habit energies, but he doesn't talk about the negative habit energy. But he chooses to water our good seeds, our diligence, our kindness, our forgiveness. Different sister, different brother, he will water differently. So we grow with confidence, and we grow very natural way. So we can realize our full potential. I think this practice is very important for parents, especially Asian parents. When we have a culture, we don't praise. We scold, right? We feel that praising is maybe make them feel that they are good enough, they don't need to try more. So we scold. Like my parents, they never say they love me. But I know they love me, but they never say it. This is Asian culture. Our teacher, when he have to live in exile in the West, he learned this beauty of the Western culture that they express themselves. So he expressed his love, so that we know that he loves us, and he accepts us totally. That we need time to grow. He gives us that time to grow. So we have that kind of space and time to grow. As a teacher, his main job is to remind us to practice mindfulness. Because when we are mindful, we recognize what is good in us, what is not quite good yet, what is negative. And we learn to adjust. After a few years in the monastery, I can adjust without being reminded so frequently. Because in meditation I can really see myself, my good quality but also my negative, so then I can adjust. So as parents or as couple, we also need to learn to water the flowers. Even though just a small thing, we don't take things for granted. If anything that we feel that we want to appreciate, we want to say thank, We have to say it. And don't take it for granted and say, oh, it has to be like that. But this is a nature, human nature. When everything goes smooth, that's okay. But when things not flowing or going as the way we want, we complain. Right? We all have this tendency and this seeds of complaining. So this flower watering is something that we need to learn. We need to say it. Because at home our parents do not say it. You know, like especially Asian parents, they don't say thank you. But when we come and live in the West, we need to relearn. We need to say thank you. When we ask children to do something, we need to say thank you. You know, our teacher, when we have a chance to be his attendant, it's our marriage, you know, to be close to him and to learn directly from him. If we are in China or in Vietnam, never a teacher will say thank to a student, you know, because we have that merit to be near him and to learn. But when he lived in the West, he learned this culture. So when I was a novice, I attended him. At the end of the day, he said, thank you for being with me today. It's very kind. Yeah, he said it. So as parents, we need to water the children's flowers. Or as a couple, we also need to water the flowers. Just like a pot of flowers, if we don't water, it's not fresh anymore, right? We tend to take good care of our properties. You know, we wash our cars, we clean our house, we water the flowers. But the people we are living with, very seldom we water their flowers. This is something we need to adjust so that we can benefit from the freshness of the people we are living with. When we speak positively, we water the good seeds in that person, and that person will grow, you know, and manifest many more beautiful qualities, and the happiness in the family will increase. But if we keep talking negatively, we keep nagging, keep complaining, you know what is the result, right? So we have the second step, sharing regrets. From time to time, because of our unskillfulness and lack of mindfulness, we may say things or do things that hurt other people. We all do it from time to time, right? But the things that hurt people the most is the speech, the negative speech. In Deer Park Monastery in Southern California, it's a rocky mountain. There's so many rocks and big boulders. When it rains, the water gets into the crack of this boulder. And in winter, it's very cold at night. So the water was frozen. And that's how it split the boulder. There's a huge boulder, but it's split evenly, half. Because just water, you know, the crack and water get in, and it freezes, and that's how it cracked the rock. Negative speech is like water. It get into the crack, and it crack. It split. Actually, it split. Or the broken marriage, a broken family. Many of the broken family and broken marriages becomes of negative speech. If we keep saying negative things year after year, we totally destroy our marriage and our family. It's just like water split rocks. And if we do not have this practice of mindfulness, we will never recall that we spoke very negatively. We accuse, we blame, we criticize. We really hurt each other with speech. Just like the couple in Hong Kong, they really kill each other with words. You know, the wife said one night when the husband got home and they have an argument, and his speech is so harmful that she was shaking like for many minutes, shaking whole body. And she cannot control herself. It's so hurtful that she could not sleep. And that's how she fight back. But after learning the practice, she tried to water his flowers. You know? And when she wanted to express her regret, she would ask him, you know, like Sunday, when he doesn't work, when he's at home, then he can listen to her. You know, she always begin with flower watering. You know, thanks him for working very hard. He doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink. You know, he work and work and work. You know, she thanked him for, you know, providing that kind of financial security. You know. And then she expressed her regret. And then she said, oh, you know, I still have this habit of speaking at the wrong time. So I know I irritate you many times. So she apologized. You know, not accusing the husband anymore, like before. So the husband was very surprised. But she recognized her mistakes and apologized. And he changed his speech totally. You know, because the way she speaks, it taught him also to recognize his part. But when we express our regret, it doesn't mean that we expect the other person have to apologize us back. You know, if we need to express ourselves, we just express ourselves without any expectation. If we expect other people to apologize, then it creates a kind of tension, and that person doesn't want to do it. So if we need to express, we just express ourselves. And when we have that negative speech, because we all have that seeds of anger within us, right? And we don't recognize this seed. And especially when we live together, you know, we keep talking negatively, it waters that seed. And it's getting bigger and bigger. And it's so often we argue and we fight after one or two sentences. So the Buddha said that, you know, like somebody is burning your house. And you want to find out who's burning your house. And you go around and ask people who's burning. So your house will burn till the end. You cannot save your house. But if you stop asking and you go back and you take care of your house, you know, try to put out the fire, then you may save your house. Right? So instead of arguing that, instead of saying that that person is wrong, I'm right, then we don't have to de-escalate the conflict, but we demand the other person to apologize instead of we apologize. Any conflict or any fight, it comes from both sides. It never comes from one side. So when we express our regret, we show our intention to de-escalate the conflict. Most of the time, when we apologize, right away, we have the other person also to recognize the part that he also did or she also did. So this practice is very, very, very important to de-escalate conflict. If we have this, the intention to initiate, to apologize, then we have a chance to save the conflicts and the difficulties from arising and from escalating. The third step is expressing hurt. Many of us, when we have this kind of hurt or perception about others, we choose not to talk about. We choose to ignore, or not to ignore, to neglect, and not to pay much attention. But the hurt is still there, even though it's just little. And then a week later, he did the same thing again, and that hurt will grow a little bit bigger, to the point that the next time he just opened his mouth and say something, then we explode. Because the hurt's been there. And we never have a chance to express it. And then when we explode, the other person was like, how come you make such a big thing out of a little thing? And have that kind of surprise. So when we express our hurt, we also have to choose a time that the other person relax and calm and have the time to listen to us. And most of the couples, when they get home from work, they talk. They talk about many things. And it's very difficult to listen. I went home and I visit my family and my brother and his wife. The wife has the tendency to talk at dinner time about many things. And sometimes okay, but sometimes, difficult things to talk about, like how to educate a boy. They always disagree about the way to educate. And so they argue most of the time because they don't know how to choose the time to talk about. And my brother verbally accused my sister-in-law. She got hurt. And many times that hurt built up. So one time when I was at home with them, the wife talked back. I know that her anger is very big because the way she talked back. So when I got back to the monastery, I wrote a letter to my brother. I water my sister-in-law flowers. I say, do you recognize these qualities in her? I try to water her flowers so my brother can recognize and remember. I think he knows these qualities when she married her. But when they live together, they don't see that beautiful qualities, more often. They forget. So I water her flower and like guide him a little bit so that he can express his regret to de-escalate a conflict. So when we need to talk, especially when we express our hurt, we never begin with, I am angry because you. This is a very wrong speech, So how do we begin? Because when we open the conversation, we say, I am very angry because you did this and you say that to me last week or last month. We close the ear of the person. That person doesn't want to listen anymore. Instead, we put that person in a position he or she have to defend himself or herself. Right? Because the way we speak, I feel angry because you. That person have to jump to defense. And that person doesn't want to listen. Right? Most of us This is how we say. We accuse or we blame. So this is not the right language to speak. So when we express our hurt, we say, I feel very frustrated, or I feel very angry because my needs have not met. Most of the time we have some need. And so the need to feel safe, the need to feel protected, this is very human. We all have these needs. Like Brother Pháp Thầy shared last night, about different emotions, anger or craving, they help us to survive. So we have needs. We need to find ways to express our needs so the other person understands our needs. I think you all heard about nonviolent communication. Yeah? This is one of the methods. The founder of the nonviolent communication, he's a Jewish American. His name is Rosenberg Marshall. When he was young, he lived in a very violent neighborhood in Chicago. There's a lot of shooting and violence. And he observed, even though when he was a teenager, he observed and he see people speak so violently. And that's how it started war and conflict. So when he grew up and he entered university, he learned psychology. He wanted to understand the people's mind. And there must be a way for people to speak in order to bring peace and harmony in the family and society. There must be a way. Because he very amused and very, it's a big question for him when he was young. So anyway, he find this method he calls nonviolent communication. It's the name sound. It is truly nonviolent communication. That when you express yourself, you express about your need and not accusing other people. So he say, I'm angry because he comes very close to the teaching of the Buddha. Just like the Buddha say, we all have that seed of anger within us. Just like the house, when somebody burned your house, it's better to go back to take care of the house. That means that to take care of the seed of anger within us and not run after the other person, not accusing other people. So these two teachings is very parallel. They come very close to what he discovered in the nonviolent communication is very close to the teaching of the Buddha. So when we say, I have this hurt, I feel very hurt because I felt that I was not listened. I was not listened to. This is one way of speaking rather than, you never listen to me, you don't know how to listen. Right? So you express the same content, the same message, but the way you say it very different. I feel angry because I felt that I am not listened to. Rather than, you never listen to me, you don't know what is listening. When you say you don't know what is listening, you accusing, you blame. And of course the other person will jump and say, yeah, you know how to listen, huh? And that's how war and conflict. So in our community, when we have this practice of beginning anew, we express that, I feel very frustrated because this is teamwork, but I don't have the support I need. You see, I'm talking about my need. I need the support, but I don't have it. I have to carry the load of work by myself. So instead of saying, you are irresponsible, you don't do your part, I do everything. No, I don't, there's a way for us to say it. I feel very frustrated because I need help, and I don't have that help when I need. So when we speak in this way, we keep the other person's ears open and not shut it. The last step is sharing long-term difficulties and asking for support. If we have a very long-term difficulties, whatever it is, and we don't know how to talk about it, we choose to ignore or we choose to accuse, and it will never be a solution. So when we are talking about our difficulties, just like expressing hurts, we need to water the flowers first. We always need to water the flower first. So when we water the flowers, we open the ears of the other person so they can listen to our difficulties. If we open a conversation with accusing, it will never lead to anywhere, right? We all experience it, right? Whatever difficulties it is, whatever difficulty is, if we let it happen for a long time and we don't talk about it, it's quite difficult. It's just like the couple in Hong Kong. They have a lot of difficulties and they don't talk about it for 17 years. They don't talk about it because whenever they talk, they fight. So they can never talk about, what is the really difficulties. So the wife, she chooses to water his flower, and then occasionally apologize, for her part. So in that way, she keep doing it for a while. So the husband opened his ears, and not to reject her like before. So recently, after dinner, she talked about how suffering she was when the children were small. Because he beat up the little girl, so she had to call the police. And that's how, the conflict escalated. And because, she talked about, his flowers and her regret for quite many months. So that night, particular night after dinner, she talked about that incident. And she talked about her difficulties of raising the children without any experiences and without the help and support of him. Because he had to work. When he got home, he was so tired. He was not able to listen. So she talked about her difficulties as a young wife, young mother, without support, without understanding. For the first time, almost after 20 years, she can talk about her difficulties, and he listened. She was amazed of the practice. She said, it works so well, beyond my expectation. So when we have a long-term difficulties, we have to really practice ourselves so that our speech is not bitter and not accusing. When you talk about your long-term hurts or difficulties, it is very painful. Once you open that wound, it will overflow, and the other person may not be able to receive it. So you have to be very, very prepared and very mindful. And once you can talk about the difficulties, and then you can ask for support. If we have the chance to do it differently, we definitely can do it differently. I need the support. I cannot do it myself. Whatever need we need, we can ask. But when you speak in this kind of language, the other person can receive, can offer the support and help. In so many retreats, we have this practice. It saved so many marriage and the 5 mindfulness trainings. When people take home the 5 mindfulness training, especially the 4th one, loving speech and deep listening, and this very concrete practice, many people, they cannot think of any other way to save their marriage except divorce. But they can actually reconcile and live together. This practice helps us to reconcile, to rebuild our family, our marriage. And so, the working people, also at workplace, many also people have difficulties with colleagues, with supervisor, and they practice flower watering and expressing regret. And it works. When we have a retreat in Taiwan, there's a very young professional woman. She said, in my workplace, people flatter the boss because it's so competitive. You have to please the boss in order to get the promotion or being promoted or whatever, bonus or whatever, So people flatter him. She said that it's too much, I cannot stand it. And then she asked, should I do that? Should I do the same like everybody else so I can get a promotion? It's very contradictory, She cannot stand all the people doing that. But at the end she asked, should I do the same? I think we all have the need to be recognized and to be praised. But if we overdo, it doesn't work. Actually, it looked very fake, yeah. And so then I said, well, we have this practice. How about you take this practice home? You water your members, your family members, sincerely. You recognize their good seed, you water their good seed to see how it works. If it works in your family, apply it in your workplace. Flower watering is an art. It's really an art. We have to be mindful, and we have to have certain level of mindfulness in order to do it. And when we do it correctly and skillfully, it really, really blossoms the relationship. And it